Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by. Welcome to Alibaba Group's March quarter 2022 and full fiscal year 2022 results conference call. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. After management's prepared remarks, there will be a question and answer session. I would now like to turn the call over to Rob Lin, Head of Investor Relations of Alibaba Group. Please go ahead.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to Alibaba Group's March quarter 2022 and full fiscal year 2022 results conference call. With us today are Daniel Zhang, Chairman and CEO, Joe Tsai, Executive Vice Chairman, Toby Xu, Chief Financial Officer. This call is also being webcasted from the IR section of our corporate website. A replay of the call will be available on our website later today. Now, let me quickly cover the safe harbor. Today's discussion may contain forward-looking statements. Forward-looking statements involve inherent risks and uncertainties that may cause actual results to differ materially from our current expectations. For detailed discussion of the risks and uncertainties, please refer to our latest annual report on Form 20-F and other documents filed with the U.S. SEC or announced on the website of the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. Any forward-looking statement that we make on this call are based on assumption as of today, and we do not undertake any obligation to update these statements except as required under applicable law. Please note that certain financial measures that we are using on this call, such as adjusted EBITDA, adjusted EBITDA margin, adjusted EBITDA margin, non-GAAP net income, non-GAAP diluted earnings per share, ADS, and free cash flow, are expressed on a non-GAAP basis. Our GAAP results and reconciliation of GAAP to non-GAAP measures can be found in our earnings press release. Unless otherwise stated, growth rate of all stated metrics mentioned during this call refer to year-over-year growth versus the same quarter last year. In addition, during today's call, management will give their prepared remarks in English. A third-party translator will provide simultaneous Chinese translation on another conference line. Please refer to our press release for details. During the Q&A session, we will take questions in both English and Chinese, and the third-party translator will provide consecutive translation. All translations are for convenience purpose only. In the case of any discrepancy, management statement in the original language will prevail. With that, I will now turn to Daniel.
Thank you, Rob. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our earnings call today. We completed a solid fiscal year amidst the macroeconomic challenges in China due to the resurgence of COVID and tremendous uncertainties in the global geopolitical landscape. During the fiscal year, we achieved the target of 1 billion AACs in China, with annual net increase of 113 million. Globally, we reached 1.31 billion AACs, with annual net increase of 177 million. And we achieved a total GMV of 8.3 trillion RMB, with close to 8 trillion RMB in China and 341 billion RMB outside of China. Our cloud computing business completed its first profitable fiscal year while maintaining market leadership in China. Now, I would like to share a bit more about the latest situation in China with the recent resurgence of COVID. As you all know, Omicron started to spread in China in March and has impacted several major consumption and manufacturing centers such as Pearl River Delta, including Shenzhen, the Yangtze River Delta, including Shanghai and Beijing. During the second half of April, over 80 cities in China reported confirmed COVID cases, and most are national economic centers. Such widespread impact has brought significant uncertainties to the China economy. We saw the national retail sales reporting negative year-over-year growth in March and April, and online sales of physical goods also reported a historical decline year-over-year. The resurgence of COVID has also impacted our business to varying degrees. Overall speaking, we saw a low single-digit decline in revenue growth in April compared to the same period last year. Online physical goods GMV of our China retail marketplaces, excluding unpaid orders, saw year-over-year decline in the low teens percentage in April. To give you a sense of the scope of impact, based on our consumer address, cities with new COVID cases in April represented more than half of our China retail marketplaces GMV. These cities also included major merchants hubs such as Shanghai, Shenzhen, and their nearby cities, where supply chain and logistic disruptions have resulted in widespread impacts. During the same period, while our user traffic and engagement have remained resilient, patterns of consumption across categories on our platforms have shifted. Fashions and electronics consumption decreased. Demand for essential supplies such as food and FMCG products increased significantly, with more consumers stockpiling at home. Emerging categories such as healthcare, activewear, and outdoor products also grow rapidly. We have seen a major recovery in local logistic capacity compared to April. We believe operating stability and sustainability during this period is the primary concern of all businesses. Ensuring stability of supply chain and logistics aimed the uncertainties is the best way to improve consumption sentiment and foster a more positive environment for business operations. We are also facing uncertainties in the macro environment outside of China. During the quarter, Lazada's order growth slowed down to 32% year-over-year as offline consumption gradually recovered post-pandemic in Southeast Asia, with Malaysia, Vietnam, and Thailand achieve higher than regional average order growth rates. Trendyol continued its market leadership in Turkey, with quarterly order volume growing by 48% year-over-year. The order volume of AliExpress decreased year-over-year this quarter, mainly due to the impact of European Union's policy change in VAT exemption, recovery of local supply chain and offline consumption post-pandemic, as well as international logistic disruptions due to the regional conflict. Despite geopolitical conflicts and uncertainties, we will continue efforts to develop our globalization strategy in consumption. We will serve international consumers through a combination of cross-border and local commerce models, and proactively invest in our global logistic networks as part of our overseas digital commerce infrastructure build-up. Facing the challenges of geopolitical and macroeconomic uncertainties, many companies started to focus on high-quality growth with cost control and loss cutting. For Alibaba, high-quality growth has been a principle for years. Especially during the pandemic, we see the benefits of a solid foundation that we have built over time carrying out this principle. Number one, the high-quality consumer that we serve. Number two, the high-quality infrastructure we are building for digital commerce. And number three, the high-quality technology innovations that drive the vast potential of our cloud computing business. I will elaborate more in the following sections. First of all, the high-quality consumer base. We serve the largest and the highest quality consumer base in China by Taobao and Tmall. Among our 1 billion AACs in China, 124 million consumers spend more than 10,000 RMB annually on Taobao and Tmall. And 98% of those consumers continue to stay active in the following years. Looking ahead, we will continue to strengthen our comprehensive consumer application portfolio with clearly differentiated user value propositions and address the diversified needs of different consumer segments in accordance with their consumption power and mindset, especially those of our core customers. What does it mean? In pre-purchase stage, it means establish a clear consumer mindset, stimulating consumer interest through increasing user engagement and time spent on consumption-related contents, and influencing consumer decision. In post-purchase stage, it means an enhanced fulfillment and customer service experience. I believe this is a winning formula for earning consumer mindshare and wallet share in a highly competitive landscape. Secondly, the high-quality infrastructure for digital commerce. Over the years, Alibaba has established a comprehensive infrastructure for digital commerce based on a hybrid model combining intercity and intracity fulfillment. Through digital user outreach, effective organization of product and services supply, as well as fulfillment service capabilities covering cities and communities, our infrastructure has become an important way for consumers to obtain daily necessities during the pandemic. In particular, over the last few years, we have created our location-based commerce business by building core capabilities in supply chain and fulfillment and online-offline integrated distribution networks on top of a pre-existing marketplace model. Based on our data in March and April, an average order value of customers in our location-based commerce business has increased significantly as consumers in COVID-affected areas rush to stock up. As a result, while our order volumes were negatively impacted by the fulfillment capacity constraint during the pandemic, GMV of these location-based commerce business have shown robust year-on-year growth. Taking Shanghai as an example, while Ele.me's food delivery business has been significantly impacted, deliveries of retail categories have grown rapidly. In particular, demands for groceries and pharmaceuticals are extremely strong, with year-on-year growth above 100%. As Ele.me continued to enhance its operations and reduce unit logistic cost, its unit economics also improved significantly to almost break even during the quarter. Our infrastructure is playing an important role during the pandemic. For example, our different businesses, including Freshippo, Taoxianda, Tmall Supermarket, Ele.me, etc., are providing essential supplies in cities impacted by COVID in China. Through these efforts, we hope to integrate business capabilities with social responsibility, leveraging the power of digital commerce and technology in the fight against COVID, and providing essential supply support for local communities. Let me name a few examples. Sunart, Freshippo, and other business units supported the supply and delivery of essentials to the residents by dispatching thousands of couriers and frontline workers from various regions in China to Shanghai. Ele.me delivered more than 2.5 million pharmaceutical medicine orders to homes in Shanghai in April 2022. It also launched emergency delivery services for vulnerable groups in the city and addresses nearly 70,000 emergency requests during the month. Cainiao Logistics built an emergency logistics system that encompassed disaster preparedness management, emergency transportation, transit, and distribution to deal with contingencies. AMAP, our map navigation tool, launched the map of PCR tested sites, which cover more than 350 cities in China by mid-May. Users can easily search for a locations and opening hours of nearby test sites. Taobao and Tmall have launched a series of targeted relief measures that would help merchants in Shanghai and those participating in our June 18 shopping festival after cash flow to ease their cash flow pressure, reduce operating costs, and speed up the resumption of work and production to the largest extent possible. Thirdly, the high-quality technology innovations that drive the vast potential of our cloud computing business. Alibaba Cloud's competitive advantage is its world-class perpetual technology and products that support the highly demanding and complex business across Alibaba Group, while serving customers across a wide variety of verticals globally. In fiscal year 2022, Alibaba Cloud continues to be the leader in terms of market share in China and achieved a full-year profitability for the first time. Its GAAP revenue reached 74.6 billion RMB during the year, with 23% year-on-year growth. Before inter-segment elimination, cloud revenue for the fiscal year has exceeded 100 billion RMB. During the past quarter, Alibaba Cloud's revenue increased by 12% year-on-year. The growth deceleration was a result of several factors, including the decline in corporate activities and a delay in project delivery due to the impact of COVID restrictions, slowdown in the growth of internet industry customers, and the gradual termination of contracts by a top customer for our public cloud services outside of China. We believe these impacts are temporary. While China's internet industry customers show a deceleration in cloud service demand as the entire sector faced a challenge of growth ceiling in user traffic and time spent. Digitalization of other industries is just starting, and we see plenty of opportunities. Cloud computing and data intelligence services are fundamental to every business in every sector undergoing digital transformation. According to the industry estimates, China's cloud market size will reach 1 trillion RMB by 2025. Alibaba Cloud will continue to elevate its core technology and products to maintain its leadership in its highly potential market. The cumulative results of Alibaba's strong management and operations over the years has produced a high-quality customer base, a sophisticated digital commerce infrastructure, and world-class technology innovation. We also have a multi-engine growth strategy, robust financial conditions, and a profitable business and a strong cash flow. These provide important assurance in the face of a macro uncertainty and, more importantly, a source of confidence as we continue to pursue healthy and sustainable development for the future. In the new fiscal year, we will focus even more on cost control and continue to improve our operating efficiency. This includes streamlining unprofitable businesses, improving cash cycles, and enhancing investment efficiency in personnel, fixed assets, and other areas to maintain financial flexibility amidst uncertainties. Recently, the Chinese government has released important policy signals on its commitment to stabilize the economy and the job market in response to COVID impacts. They have also issued clear statements on promoting the development of internet platform economy through a healthy regulatory environment. Yesterday, the State Council held a national meeting to mobilize the implementation of several economic policies. As one of the representative companies of China Internet platform economy, Alibaba is committed to supporting China's development through the combination of technological innovation and commercial innovation. We aim to serve Chinese consumers' pursuit for a better life, as well as the digital transformation needs of different industries. We also will be on the front lines in the fight against COVID and ensuring the availability of food and other essential supplies to community in need. We look forward to the introduction and implementation of policies that will enable the Internet platform companies to contribute more towards stabilizing the market, creating jobs, and furthering high-quality development of China economy. The history of economic development has always been filled with twists and turns. In the long run, we strongly believe in the resilience and the potential of the China economy. We will strengthen our fundamentals during this unique period, focus on innovation and customer value creation, and continue investing and planning for Alibaba's long-term growth. Thank you everyone for your time. I will now turn the mic over to Toby, who will walk you through the details of our financial results.
Thank you, Daniel. Hello, everyone. Let me walk you through the details of our financial results. For the quarter ended March 31st, 2022, total revenue was RMB 204 billion, an increase of 9%. That was primarily driven by the revenue growth of China Commerce segment by 8% to RMB 140 billion. Local Consumer Services segment by 29% to RMB 10 billion, and Cloud segment by 12% to RMB 19 billion. Income from operations for the quarter was RMB 16.7 billion, compared to a loss from operations of RMB 7.7 billion in the same quarter of last year. The year-over-year change of RMB 24.4 billion was primarily due to RMB 18 billion anti-monopoly fine levied in the March 2021 quarter and a mark-to-market adjustment of SBC expenses of RMB 13 billion in the March 2022 quarter. Excluding these impacts, income from operations would have decreased by RMB 7 billion, primarily due to changes in adjusted EBITDA. Adjusted EBITDA decreased by RMB 6.8 billion to RMB 15.8 billion year-over-year in the quarter. The decrease was primarily due to RMB 7.4 billion decrease in China Commerce segment EBITDA that mainly reflected investments in Taocaicai and Taobao Deal, impacts from COVID, as well as losses incurred by Sunnot. However, it's important to know that the combined losses of Taobao Deal and Taocaicai declined quarter-over-quarter as we focus on driving high-quality growth for our China Commerce segment. Importantly, during the March 2022 quarter, we are also making progress in improving operating efficiency and instill cost discipline through the company. This has resulted in narrowing losses year-over-year of RMB 1.2 billion for Local Consumer Services, narrowing losses of RMB 732 million for DME segment, and improving profitability of RMB 618 million for Cloud segment. Cost of revenue ratio, excluding SBC, increased to 68% in the quarter ended March 31st, 2022. The increase was primarily due to, firstly, higher proportion of direct sales businesses such as Freshippo and Tmall Supermarket that increased the cost of inventory as a percentage of revenue. And secondly, growth of Taocaicai and Cainiao businesses that led to an increase in logistic costs as a percentage of revenue. Excluding SBC, product development expenses as a percentage of revenue slightly increased to 6% in the quarter ended March 31st, 2022, reflecting our continued investments in talents to drive technology and product innovation. Sales and marketing expenses, excluding SBC, as a percentage of revenue, remained stable at 13% in the March quarter compared to the same quarter of last year. Excluding SBC and the impact from anti-monopoly fine, general and administrative expenses as a percentage of revenue will be flattish in the quarter. Non-GAAP net income attributable to ordinary shareholders in the quarter was RMB 21.5 billion, a decline of 6.9 billion, primarily due to decrease in adjusted EBITDA. GAAP net losses attributable to ordinary shares was 16.2 billion. The difference between GAAP net losses and non-GAAP net income was primarily due to decrease in the market prices of our equity investments in publicly traded companies. As of March 31st, 2022, we continue to maintain a strong net cash position of RMB 343 billion, or $54 billion. Our strong net cash position is supported by robust cash flow generation. In fiscal year 2022, net cash flow from operation and free cash flow were RMB 142.8 billion and RMB 98.9 billion respectively. Majority of the difference is operating capex spending at RMB 42 billion, reflecting our investment in cloud business and logistic fulfillment infrastructure. Free cash flow in March quarter 2022 was an outflow of RMB 15 billion, mainly due to the payment of final settlement installment in the amount of RMB 9.1 billion of the RMB 18.2 billion, the anti-monopoly fine, and a decrease in profit. Importantly, we have continued to enhance returns to shareholders through share repurchases, given our strong balance sheet and free cash flow generation capability. In fiscal year 22, we repurchased approximately 60 million of our ADSs for approximately $9.6 billion under our share repurchase program. On March 22, our company's board has authorized an increase of our share repurchase program for $15 billion to $25 billion. Since April 1st to May 25th, we have repurchased another $3.4 billion in ADSs. As of May 25th, we still have an unused amount of $12 billion under the share repurchase program. Before I start with our segment results, I'd like to highlight something in the December 2021 quarter financial results. In the December quarter, the net income attributable to ordinary shareholders was understated by RMB 7.3 billion. This was caused by a goodwill impairment charge that should have been partially attributed to non-controlling interest, but was fully recorded in net income attributable to ordinary shareholders. This does not impact our non-GAAP measures and does not impact revenue, income from operations, or total net income for the December quarter. The attribution has been rectified and properly reflected in the full year consolidated financial information for the fiscal year 2022. This attribution has no impact on the consolidated financial information for the March 2022 quarter. Now, let's look at our segment results. Revenue from our China commerce segment in March quarter was on the 140 billion, an increase of 8% year-over-year. Customer management revenue remained stable year-over-year at RMB 63 billion, despite a low single-digit decline in Taobao and Tmall online physical goods GMV, excluding unpaid orders. For the March quarter, the combined GMV growth of January and February was flat, but was offset by a decline in GMV in March, driven by COVID-19 impacts. If we further break down customer management revenue growth into advertising and commission revenue, total advertising revenue delivered positive growth during the quarter. Commission revenue recorded a high single-digit decline due to GMV decline and higher order cancellation and delays as a result of logistic bottleneck from COVID-19 resurgence in March. Direct sales and others revenue in March quarter was on the 73 billion, an increase of 14% year-over-year, primarily driven by robust revenue growth of Freshippo and Tmall Supermarket. China commerce segment adjusted EBITDA decreased by RMB 7.4 billion year-over-year to RMB 32.1 billion in the March quarter. The decline reflected investments in Taocaicai, Taobao Deal, as well as over RMB 1 billion losses incurred by Sun Art, primarily due to one-off asset impairments and special provisions. We are making progress in our commitment to improve efficiency and narrow losses for Taobao Deal and Taocaicai that have been successful in acquiring new consumers in less developed areas. During the quarter, Taobao Deals had over 300 million annual active consumers. More than 20% of these AAC of Taobao Deals were consumers that did not shop on Taobao or Tmall in fiscal year 2022. And Taocaicai had over 90 million AAC, of which more than 50% were first-time fresh producer buyers on our various platforms. At the same time, the combined losses of Taobao Deal and Taocaicai declined quarter-over-quarter. We expect the combined Taobao Deal and Taocaicai losses to continue to narrow as we focus on driving high-quality growth for our China commerce segment. Onto our major direct sales businesses. Except for Sun Art, as mentioned, losses narrowed year-over-year for Freshippo, Tmall Global, and Tmall Supermarket. We have continued to expand our direct sales business to enrich product supply for our marketplaces, strengthen supply chain capabilities for various verticals, and offer comprehensive high-frequency fulfillment services that seamlessly integrate with physical stores and pickup stations. These businesses delivered solid top-line growth during the quarter, and we expect them to contribute more to the overall segment revenue mix, which will continue to affect China commerce EBITDA margin. Our international commerce segment revenue in March quarter was RMB 14.3 billion, an increase of 7% year-over-year. The increase was primarily driven by Lazada and Alibaba.com, our international wholesale business. Lazada delivered solid order growth of 32%, while Alibaba.com grew transaction value completed on its platform by 22%. The slower year-over-year growth rate as compared to previous quarters was mainly due to, firstly, revenue decline of Trendyol that was negatively impacted by the ongoing depreciation of Turkish lira against RMB. And secondly, orders decline for AliExpress, which was mainly driven by the ongoing impacts from VAT rules, as well as supply chain and logistics disruptions for parcels entering the Eurozone due to Russia and the Ukraine conflict, and then slowing China export growth and supply chain disruptions from COVID-19 impacts. International commerce segment adjusted EBITDA losses was a loss of RMB 2.6 billion in March quarter. Losses slightly increased year-over-year, mainly driven by Trendyol's investments in new businesses such as international businesses and local consumer services in Turkey, partly offset by continued profit growth of Alibaba.com, narrowed losses of AliExpress, and narrowed losses of Lazada through optimization of OPEX and logistics cost. Revenue from local consumer services was RMB 10.4 billion in March quarter, an increase of 29% year-over-year, driven by more efficient use of subsidies and higher average order value driven resilient GMV growth for Ele.me. Local consumer service adjusted EBITDA losses reduced by 1.2 billion year-over-year to RMB 5.5 billion, primarily due to the narrowed losses of our to-home business, driven by optimized user acquisition and reduced delivery costs. Revenue from Cainiao after inter-segment elimination was RMB 11.6 billion in March quarter, an increase of 16% year-over-year, primarily contributed by the increase in revenue from consumer logistics services as a result of service upgrade for enhancing consumer experience, partly offset by the decrease in international orders that was mainly impacted by the supply chain and logistic disruptions for parcels entering the Eurozone due to Russia and the Ukraine conflict. During the fiscal year 2022, 69% of China's total revenue was generated from external customers. Cainiao adjusted EBITDA loss was RMB 912 million. Loss widened by RMB 327 million year-over-year, primarily due to increase in operating costs from expansion of our global smart logistics infrastructure, as well as the impacts from COVID-19 resurgence in China and Russia and Ukraine conflict. Going forward, we will continue our efforts in building comprehensive logistic and the fulfillment infrastructure in China and internationally, laying the foundation for sustainable long-term growth for our digital commerce businesses. Revenue from our cloud segment after inter-segment elimination was RMB 19 billion in March quarter, an increase of 12% year-over-year. Revenue growth was slower in March quarter compared to prior quarters, reflecting slowing economic activities, softening demand from customers in China internet industry, and delays in completing hybrid cloud projects due to COVID-19 impacts. Excluding revenue generated from a top customer in the internet industry that gradually phased out using our cloud services for its international business, our cloud segment revenue after inter-segment elimination would have grown 15% year-over-year during March quarter and 29% for fiscal year 2022. Excluding this customer, our customer base and industry coverage continues to diversify. The next top 10 non-affiliated customers contribute to less than 10% of Ali Cloud's revenue in fiscal year 2022. Importantly, revenue contribution from non-internet industries continues to increase as well. During the March quarter, revenue growth was strong in telecommunication, financial services, and retail industries, but declined in selected internet verticals, including online education and entertainment. Adjusted EBITDA of cloud segment, which comprises of Alibaba Cloud and DingTalk, was a profit of RMB 278 million in March quarter, which improved by RMB 618 million year-over-year. This is primarily attributable to ongoing improvement in cloud profitability, partly offset by increasing losses from DingTalk. In the new fiscal year, our cloud segment will focus on high-quality revenue growth, invest in talents and R&D, and improve operating efficiency and expand internationally. Revenue from our digital media and entertainment segment in March quarter was RMB 8 billion, a decrease of 1% year-over-year. Adjusted EBITDA was a loss of 2 billion RMB, narrowed by 0.7 billion RMB year-over-year. Let me close with a short recap of last fiscal year and then our outlook. In fiscal year 22, we have faced with increasing challenges from many fronts. These have been brought about by slowing macro activities, increased competition, and COVID resurgence domestically, as well as changes in geopolitical conditions internationally. But they also bring into focus the fact that there's much we can do to create value for our customers and key stakeholders. During this past year, we have made a number of achievements that position us well for the future. First, we have reached a historical milestone of over 1 billion annual active consumers for all our consumer-facing businesses in China. This was made possible through the strong execution and growth of businesses such as Taobao Deal and Taocaicai. Our unique value proposition of having both e-commerce and location-based commerce businesses at scale position us well to serve these 1 billion consumers in China. Second, we are seeing increasing benefit from our development of an integrated intercity and intracity logistic network that allows us to offer multiple delivery and fulfillment options to our consumers. This network also allows us to further increase penetration in categories such as grocery, FMCG, and consumer electronics in the future. Lastly, in fiscal 22, we had spent over 120 billion in technology-related costs and expenses that continue to strengthen our leading position in China's cloud market, support to the sophisticated technological demands of our consumer-facing businesses, and advance our research and development in the next generation technologies. Now, in terms of guidance, since mid-March 2022, we have seen significant impacts to our domestic businesses from COVID-19 resurgence in China, particularly in Shanghai. Considering the risks and uncertainties arising from COVID-19, which we are not able to control and are difficult for us to predict, we believe it's prudent at this time not to give financial guidance that is typically provided at the start of the fiscal year. Looking forward in fiscal year 23, emphasizing what Daniel has mentioned, we will focus and execute several key operation principles and financial objectives, including first, generate sustainable and high-quality revenue that reflects our ongoing commitments to developing high-quality consumers, high-quality digital commerce infrastructure, and high-quality technology innovations. We believe these efforts will continue to build a strong and durable relationship with our consumers and customers. Second, we will focus on optimizing our overall cost structure. We will control costs and improve returns for our major businesses that are already at significant scale compared to peers. For growth businesses, we will also optimize spending and at the same time identify increasing monetization opportunities that yield sustainable high-quality revenue. The incremental revenue generated will be invested back to the respective businesses and create value for their customers, thereby creating a virtuous growth loop to achieve long-term profitability. At a high level, we will seek to improve gross margin of our direct sales businesses, optimize logistics and fulfillment costs for consumer-facing businesses, and control our overall sales and marketing spend. Third, continue to build an energy-efficient cloud infrastructure and a global warehouse and a logistic network that enhance our competitiveness in China and international markets. At the same time, we expect ongoing improvement in efficiency and utilization of these infrastructures can benefit both our customers and our own self-operated businesses. Lastly, we seek to maintain strong operating cash flow generation and a strong net cash position that gives us the financial flexibility to invest in businesses and capabilities that expand the pie and benefit all of our key stakeholders. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but by being steadfast and executing the key strategic and financial objectives that we have set out, we believe Alibaba will emerge stronger in the future. Thank you. Now let's turn to Q&A.
Hi everyone. For today's call, you are welcome to ask questions in Chinese or English. A third-party translator will provide consecutive interpretation of the Q&A session, and our management will address your question in the language you asked. Please know that the translation is for convenience only. In the case of any discrepancy, our management statement in the original language will prevail. If you are unable to hear the Chinese translation, bilingual transcripts of this call will be available on our website within 1 week after the meeting. 大家好，今天的电话会议欢迎您用中文或英文提问，我们会有第三方工作人员提供实时的翻译。我们管理层会按您提供的语言回答您的问题。翻译的目的是方便大家的理解。如有任何疑义，请以我们管理层原始语言所做的叙述为准。如您无法听到中文翻译，本次电话会议双语记录将在会议结束后的1周内在我们的官网上提供。Operator, please connect speaker and SI conference lines now and start the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question at this time, please press star then 1 on your telephone. If your question has been answered or you wish to remove yourself from the queue, please press the pound key. To give more people the opportunity to ask questions, please keep yourself to no more than 1 question at a time. As a reminder, to ask a question, please press star then 1. Our first question comes from the line of Ronald Keung with Goldman Sachs.
谢谢 Daniel、Toby 和 Rob， 那也恭喜这个业绩也非常的 resilient， 能看到呢这个 CMR 的 revenue 是基本上是 flat 的，那所以这个 GMV 虽然有一个 low single digit 的一个下降，但 CMR 是 flat。刚才 Daniel 你提到这个广告是有一个比较好的一个表现，那想知道我们进入4月有一些 COVID 的一些疫情，导致刚才说有 low teens 的一个下降，因为这个应该是 GMV， 那我们应该怎么去想这个CMR 的 revenue， 这个 gap， 还有在5月我们看到整个包裹network 开始有所 normalize， 那我们有没有看到从 GMV 或者 CMR 的角度有没有看到一些环比的一些 recovery？ 谢谢。
Thank you, Daniel, Toby, and Rob, and congratulations on the resilience that we see in the results that you've just released. We did see that CMR revenues were flat, but there was nonetheless low single-digit growth in GMV, and Daniel also spoke about how advertising was performing well. Certainly from April onwards, with the impact of COVID, there's been an impact there, including on CMR revenue. But I'm wondering what we're seeing in May in terms of the performance of the parcel network, and if things are picking up, and what we're seeing currently in terms of GMV and orders in May. Thank you.
好，谢谢你的问题啊。然后其实是这样的一个情况，第一个刚才 Daniel 在他的 script 里面讲到了我们4月份的目前的情况。那么从这个整个的 整个的 GMV 的变化的角度来讲，4月份实际上我们Daniel 提到差不多这个超过10% 的这样一个下降。那同时在这个整个的 CMR 的角度，实际上从过去大家可以看得到，我们的 CMR 跟我们的 GMV 的整个的一个变化还是基本上是 in line 的。当然这个里面可能会有一些起伏，因为这个很多时候可能 CMR 在整个的这个起伏的过程当中会有一定的滞后，而这个当中也会反映出了很多的一些商家在进行他们的这个需要进行一些投入来增加他们的整个的收入这样的一个实际的情况，所以这是一个4月份的一个情况。
Well, thanks for your question. In Daniel's speech earlier, he did give you a presentation on the situation in April. Overall, as Daniel said, GMV was down by around 10%. Typically, CMR does tend to move in line with GMV, but there can be a lag. It's the case that many merchants may need to invest in order to grow their revenues.
好，那个5月份的情况我稍微补充一下，就是这个确实最近这个1-2周以来，我们看到这个随着快递的恢复这个整个的这个包括上海的疫情的缓解，所以整个的开始逐步恢复当中。但是整体上我们认为还是需要一些时间把前期的一些包裹消化掉包括这个后面商家已经开始这个618的准备和这个马上就开始了应该是今天晚上就开始了。所以从这个意义上就是我们看到这个5月份这个最近我们看到有一些改善的一些迹象。
好的，谢谢 Daniel.
Thank you. Well, talking about the situation in May over the past couple of weeks, with the resumption of express deliveries and with the beginning of the normalization of the situation in Shanghai, certainly we see things improving, but it will take time for all of the outstanding parcels to be delivered and also for merchants to make their preparations for the upcoming 618. In fact, preparations will be beginning tonight, but we certainly are seeing signs of improvement going into the month of May.
Okay, next question.
Our next question comes from the line of Eddie Leung with Bank of America.
Good evening, guys. Thank you for taking my question. I think you guys started to mention about some of the longer-term initiatives because of the COVID lockdowns. So just looking ahead, assuming a reopening, do you see any long-term structural change in your operation, customer demand and product mix after these lockdowns? And what type of investment you need to make to handle the potential changes? Thank you.
好，管理层晚上好感谢接受我的提问。你们也提到了，就是涉及到疫情的影响，你们在做出的一些长期的一些改变。那么假如说能够全面解封的话，你们在长期的这个战略当中认为需要做出什么样的一些改变吗？包括在运营层面，或者是涉及到客户需求方面，或是产品结构方面，你们认为需要做出什么样的长期的改变？然后为此需要做出什么样的投资？
Thank you for the question. I think during this, widespread COVID, in March and April, we do see a shift of the consumption pattern, and I think after this, this wave, I think what we see that actually consumers in China, they will tend to have some stocks at their home to prepare for the uncertain situation. So how to grow, for example, the supply by bulk, and how to give them a on demand but not necessarily speedy delivery, but it's an on-demand and on-time delivery. I think it's very important. And for us, I think we believe we are in a good position, which that we have both our nationwide platform as well as the leverage by the delivery networks with major delivery partners. But at the same time, we have our intercity and instant delivery forces on the ground in all of these major cities. So how to leverage these infrastructure and enhance these capabilities and capacities is our priority in the future to support the various needs of the products. So product-wise, I think it's more diversified to the bulk sales for preparation for the future, and for the small package just for the instant delivery and for the instant needs. So it's about you need a diversified retail formats as well as the delivery and the fulfillment network to support both of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our next question comes from the line of Thomas Chong with Jefferies.
Operator, hold on a sec. The translator still needs to translate.
对，在3月和4月份，这一波疫情当中，我们确实看到一些消费趋势的变化。那么我想经过这一轮的疫情之后呢，这个消费者他以后的一个趋势，他会更多的希望在家里囤更多的货，以便能够应对未来的不确定性的情况。所以对我们来说，这是一方面，我们要能够满足这种囤货的需求。那么未来就是要能够满足这种按需及时配送，但不一定是最快速的这个配送。那么我认为呢，我们这方面还是很有条件的，因为我们一方面有全国性的这个平台跟领先的这些合作伙伴共同合作，同时我们还有室内的进场的这个及时配送的这个力量是布置在各个大城市当中，所以是看看如何发挥好这些基础设施，然后在未来的话呢，能够支持这样的一个囤货的需求，那么就是可以提供更多元化的这种服务来满足这样的需要。
Operator, next question.
Our next question comes from the line of Thomas Chong with Jefferies.
晚上好，谢谢管理层接受我的提问。我的问题呢是关于consumer spending 那一段的。管理层可不可以分享一下呢？在不同的客户群，就是一个比较高收入的、中等收入的，或者是比较低等的收入的话，他们的spending 呢会在过去几个月呢会出现什么的变化呢？会不会出现一些比较低收入的人群，他们对价格方面会更 cautious 一点？另外一个问题呢是关于下一个月的618，想看一下管理层呢对618我们今年的 KPI， 还有我们对下半年的话呢，关于这个 recovery 的 trend 呢，我们是会觉得是物流端解决就可以 recovery 就会比较 resilient， 还是再要等多一段的时间呢，等到那个消费的 sentiment 呢会好转，才可以回到一个正常的状态呢？谢谢。
Thank you, and good evening, management. My question has to do with consumer spending. I'm wondering what changes you've seen in consumer spending within different segments of consumers, high income, middle income, and low income consumers. Are low income consumers perhaps tending to be more cautious during this recent period? Also, I'd like to know what KPIs you set for this year's 618, and how you see recovery in the second half of the year. Do you think that once logistics capabilities have recovered, that will set the stage for recovery? or will we have to wait a bit longer perhaps to see consumer sentiment also recover? Thank you.
好，谢谢。我来回答一下啊。第一个呢，从人群分层我们看因为整个我们阿里巴巴这个零售平台上有这个我们的这个10亿的消费者，其实覆盖了多元化的这样的一个分层啊。其实我们可以看到不同的消费者的一个表现。这个整体上，我想在这个特殊的阶段，我们看到的情况，实际上最重要的还是必需品的生活消费，还是非必需品的生活消费，其实发生了比较明显的变化。其实从消费者来讲，无论是哪个分层，他对必需的生活消费品他的需求的更强烈，并且其实在特定的情况下价格更不敏感因为他为了这个基本生活需要。而相反对非必需品的消费会表现的相对价格更敏感一些。
Thank you. Well, on Alibaba's retail platforms, we have a consumer base of 1 billion consumers who are highly diverse, spanning all those different tiers of spending. And so, yes, we certainly do see different patterns there. But what I can tell you is during this special period of time, you really see a divergence between spending on essentials versus non-essentials. In all those different tiers of consumers, demand for essentials has gone up and there's been less price sensitivity, whereas with respect to non-essential purchases, there has been more price sensitivity.
这个其实也跟你问的这个下半年的趋势很有关系啊。我的观点是这样，我觉得整个的这个消费的恢复和增长，其实是要靠两方面的力量。一方面当然是就像我这个 script 里边讲的，商家需要这个持续的这个经营的前提条件，就是这个可持续经营稳定的物流和供应链商品供应链和物流但是另外一方面还是需要消费需求的恢复。你先翻译吧，我再讲下半段。
And this is also very relevant to the other part of your question about the trend for the coming half of the year. Because in my view, for recovery and growth of consumption to occur, two things need to happen. First, as I mentioned in my script, merchants, in order to be able to operate, need to have sustainable and robust supply chain and logistics in place. And at the same time, consumption demand needs to return.
对，那消费需求恢复的非常重要的，其实还是这个用户对未来的预期对未来收入的预期，对未来生活的预期，会决定他们的这个消费的开支当然还有重要的一点是它的可支配收入的这个稳定的增加我想这些方面都会决定了这个消费的力量能不能这个更好的增长，同时特别是在这个除了基本生活必需品这些食品这些家庭日用品以外，在非生活必需品上能不能够恢复到原来的消费的态势我想这个是消费能够不仅恢复并且带来增长这个对中国 GDP 的发展做出贡献的非常重要的一个前提条件。
And in order for consumer demand to recover, it's very important that there be strong expectations for the future. Because only when people have strong expectations for the future, and in particular in their ongoing ability to grow their disposable income, will they be able to grow their consumption. So going beyond essentials, but getting back also to increase spending on the non-essentials, which would be very important for also growing the economy in terms of stimulating GDP growth.
那个老肖，他也有问到618我们的这个 expectation， 对。
OK， 618这个刚刚开始这个我想这个作为年终的一个 重要的一个节点吧。这个其实所有的商家应该在经历了这个前一段时间的这个挑战以后，其实我们看到的情况是，这个商家还是抱有巨大的一个这个热情啊，这个大家都想在618时候能够补回一些前期的一些损失啊，能够卖更多的商品，能够有更好的生意的这样的一个表现。那从这个我们的角度来讲，对我们来讲，我们也是在积极准备啊，同时我们也这个目前看到的情况是从这个商家的报名的踊跃程度啊，从这个核心商品的数量啊这些方面，其实都有这个比较好的，跟去年同期相比有明显的一个好的一个这个一个趋势啊。这个同时呢，我们也看到随着这个时间的临近，因为现在618现在变成了一个 season， 变成一个 holiday season， 所以这个消费者的热情也开始慢慢表现出来啊。这个所以我们也会从平台来讲，我们也会这个全力的来支持好这个活动，来增加投入啊，包括特别是对这个在618我们也已经发布了很多支持这个商家的一些政策，帮助他们加速流动资金的回转啊，加快物流啊，包括这个能够帮助他们更好的这个利用这段时间能够获得一个好的销售成绩。所以这是我们一个共同一个努力的目标啊。当然我想这个过程当中，我们也希望看到在未来的一段时间里边，整个的这个疫情的控制得到一个很好的一个延续啊。如果是这样的话，我都能够创造一个更好的条件。
Yes, and the other part of the question was about this year's 618, which is just getting started. This is an important mid-year event, and coming out of this recent challenging period, merchants are indeed excited. They're looking at it as a good opportunity to recover those losses and achieve good sales. So for us, we're making active preparations to do that, and we're seeing a lot of enthusiasm and a strong trend this year compared against last year in terms of merchant enrollment and in terms of the product offerings. So this is coming up into the holiday season. There's a lot of consumer enthusiasm, and as a platform, we intend to be strongly supportive. As was mentioned, for 618, we've already put in place many policies to support and help our merchants, as well as to ensure that logistics are functioning effectively to help those merchants be able to achieve good sales. So these really are joint objectives for merchants and for us as a platform. And of course, we do very much hope to see pandemic control measures continue to be effective, which will put in place the necessary conditions to make this a success.
Thank you. Next question.
Our next question comes from the line of Jerry Liu with UBS.
谢谢管理层我这个问题主要是想问一下这个就是这个降本增效的这一段就是刚才公司也提到了不少这个各业务最近这个控制这个成本我是想问就是在下面的这个财年里不管这个就是这个消费和这个收入端如何我们是不是有一个目标就是希望这个利润端增速能超过收入端然后还有就是下面这段时间这个控制成本的可能主要的几个这个项目吧就是之前有提过饿了么然后现在看这个UE确实有比较大的进步所以是想了解一下就是新的这一年我们这个控制成本可能有主要哪几块谢谢
Thank you, management. My question has to do with cost optimization, cost control, which you mentioned will be implemented across a lot of businesses. Should we understand that as part of this cost optimization strategy, that in the coming fiscal year, the objective is to achieve faster profit growth and revenue growth? And we've certainly seen a significant improvement in UE and in Ulama and elsewhere. But what will be the major focuses and priorities for cost optimization in the coming fiscal year?
好的，我来回答这个问题啊。首先的话，我想从整个集团的层面，我觉得这一点还是很明确的，也就是说，这个其实我们过去的几个季度，那未来的一年我们会继续去做，就是在整个的降本增效的角度，我们会十分的关注。而在这个降本增效的角度，我觉得分2个层次来讲。第一个层次，我觉得是对于很多的业务，那我们会存在一定的这个大家通常所说的一些关停并转。那么在这种情况下，对于有一些业务，如果是长期的价值不明显，那我们会存在这样一个关停并转的这样一个情况。这第一层。
Thank you. This is Toby. I'll take that question. I think for the group as a whole, it's very clear that our strategy in the next few quarters or year as a whole is going to focus on cost optimization and cost control. And that will involve a couple of things. First of all, for the parts of the business that aren't generating long-term value, we'll find ways to make them more efficient or scale them down with consolidation.
对，第二层我觉得是到我们的很多的业务端。那么在这些所有的业务端，根据业务的不同的它的性质，我们都会有一定的降本增效的这样的一个目标跟要求。那这里面举几个例子，比如说在我们整体的一个业务里面，大家会看得到，我们现在已经有比较大的我们叫做 direct sales 的这样一个业务。那像这类的业务，我们现在已经比较明确的可以看得到，对业务的要求是在整个的毛利端，我们会提出一个比较高的一些要求，就是整个就提升这个效率的要求。然后同时在物流端，那我们也会提出对于效率提升的这样的一个要求，整体合起来可以给到像这样一个直营业务的话，一个整体的一个效率提升。
Secondly, we do have a lot of different businesses that are different in nature, and therefore we'll be taking different approaches and putting in place different requirements to achieving better cost efficiency. But to give you an example around our direct sales businesses, and here it's very clear. On the one hand, in terms of gross margin, we're looking to drive higher efficiency, and at the same time, we'll also be looking to achieve more cost control, better efficiency in logistics, and it will be the combination of those two things that will drive cost optimization.
对，那有一些比如说是整体在集团层面的，举个例子，比如说有一些像市场费啊等等这类的成本，那我们也会用一个相对来说比较严格的手段跟一个 measures 去控制。那会在现在这个阶段，某一些的业务可能会降低它的整个 spending。等等方面，这些都是我们的一些控制手段。
And more broadly at the group-wide level, another example would be marketing costs. And here we will be taking a more disciplined approach with specific measures. And in many cases, spending will be cut back.
对，所以呢，就是我想我刚才举了几个例子回答您的问题。整体的角度来讲，您刚才的问题是我们有没有对利润收入啊等等，这个我们没有这样的一个标准。但是我想刚才我 script 里面讲的，未来一年很重要的对我们来讲的，特别是从一个 CFO 的角度，很重要的一个任务，就是在提升我们的运营的效率，怎么样去降低成本，提升效率，同时保证我们有很好的现金流入，然后控制好我们的现金的整个的这个余额，这个我觉得是未来一年很重要的一个任务。好，谢谢您的问题。
So we don't have a specific figure to share with you on the other part of your question as to about a ratio. But as I mentioned in my script, as CFO for the group, a big priority for us is driving higher operational efficiency, lowering costs, achieving higher efficiency in order to ensure that we have a strong balance sheet and strong cash flow generation capability. Thank you.
Operator, next question.
And our next question comes from the line of Alex Yao with JP Morgan.
谢谢管理层给我这个机会啊。Daniel， 我听你在 script 里面说，有可能接下来政府会出台一些这种刺激性的政策，来帮助互联网企业更好的在这个就是经济比较低迷的时候去帮助到消费者，然后鼓励投资、稳定就业，这样的一些这个潜在的政策方向。您觉得在哪些方面有可能，或者在哪些业务业务环节上面有可能出现这样一些激励性的政策？然后在这样的一个环境下面，对咱们阿里巴巴来说，我们需要付出一些什么东西？然后我们可能能够得到一些什么样的东西？谢谢。
Thank you, management. Daniel, in your script, I believe you talked about incentives or stimuli that may be forthcoming from the government to help support the business of internet platforms and drive consumer spending. I'm wondering if you could tell us what kinds of businesses do you think will benefit from these kinds of incentives, and what kind of stimulus we can expect to see, and how Alibaba can position itself to capture the benefit of this policy.
好，这个其实我刚才讲的是说，我们也看到近期这个国家已经这个通过各种方式这个释放了对稳经济、这个稳就业、保民生的这样的一种强烈的这个信号同时这个就是在昨天，大家可能也知道肯定也都知道，这个刚刚这个国务院开了这个非常重要的这个会这个全国的这个会议来落实这个6个方面和三项的措施。那么我们也看到这个6个方面也包括了非常重要的消费领域，包括了基本的民生领域这些跟这个包括供应链的稳定这样的领域，这些都跟阿里巴巴的这样的我们的这个业务也非常有关系所以作为这样重要的这个中国的这样的一个平台企业的代表我们也希望作为这个实体经济的一部分我们在这个中间能够起到在这3个方面，无论是这个稳经济这个促进就业、这个保民生这些方面，能够起到这个做出自己的贡献能够这个帮助我们平台上的企业，特别是广大中小企业我想他们在这个疫情当中其实这个因为本身的这个能力问题的规模问题，其实首当其冲受到很多的挑战我们也希望帮助他们能够更快的去这个恢复并且只有他们恢复了，才能够真正创造更多的这个市场化的就业机会能够来这个带动整个社会的这个一个就业的发展这个就业的这个进展，包括这个整个社会的这个发展。
Thank you. Well, we've seen that the government has been coming out with various policies lately aimed at stabilizing the economy, stabilizing employment, ensuring the provision of essentials to people, including yesterday a very important national meeting convened by the State Council to implement measures in 6 different areas, several of which are highly relevant to the business of Alibaba, including stimulating consumption, ensuring the provision of essentials, and achieving supply chain recovery. So that's all highly relevant to us. As a responsible representative of the platform economy and also as a constituent of China's real economy, Alibaba is, of course, keen to make our due contribution to driving progress in all of these areas. And a very important part of this, of course, is SMEs. These small businesses, because of their scale, have been the most vulnerable to the impacts of the pandemic, and we very much want to help them recover. Only when SMEs have recovered can more market-based jobs and employment be generated.
所以我们作为阿里来讲，我们独特的能够对社会的贡献这个无论是在现在在将来，还是在一个推动一个数字化的实体经济的发展我觉得这个还是我们的一个基本责任和我们的基本的 把我们的能力能够更好的一个发挥出来。那么同时呢，我想对阿里来讲，我们也在尽自己的能力为这个我们平台上的商家提供更好的一个这个支持包括我刚才讲到的，我们为了618这个也推出了这个5大方面的25项举措来支持商家更好的备战618同时呢，我们也在前期在上海这个最困难的时候，我们也针对上海的商家推出了平台的这个20条的针对上海商家的这个纾困措施我们也希望这些措施能够真正能够帮助到我们的平台上的商家，特别是广大中小企业。
For Alibaba, this is where we can have a very unique role to play, leveraging on our resources as a responsible company in society and as the operator of a digital economy, and we see this as a basic responsibility. We've been doing everything in our power to provide support and assistance to merchants, and as mentioned with the upcoming 618 festival, we have 20 initiatives in 5 major categories. And recently, during the very difficult period in Shanghai, we had 20 special measures to support merchants during that period. We hope very much to be able to support merchants in these ways to facilitate their recovery and success.
Okay, next question, please.
And our next question comes from the line of Jiang Shao with Barclays.
Thank you very much for taking my questions. You mentioned you just paid the fine for the anti-monopoly sort of new regulation last year. Last year was a year there were a lot of government regulations that were introduced to the internet industry. Lately, as you know, some of the senior leaders from the government made some comments about any further regulation. I was just wondering, could you share with us your latest thoughts about government regulation for the industry for this year? Thank you.
好，谢谢管理层。刚才你们提到你们是去年支付了这个反垄断的罚款。那么其实去年政府呢对于互联网行业是进行了很多的监管，出台很多新的法规。那么最近有些非常高级的这个政府官员，他们也在表示要进一步的规范这个互联网的行业。那么是否可以请管理层分享一下你们最新的一些这个看法就是关于政府如何在今年将如何进一步的来规范和这个规管互联网的行业。谢谢。
Thank you for the
question. Sorry, Rob. I was not very clear. My bad. My point was that, for example, one of the vice premier Liu He said about actually some of the regulations last year. Many investors were very discouraged by it. Probably government went a bit overboard. I think Liu He mentioned that perhaps Chinese government should wrap up the regulation or any new regulation and move on and let the industry grow as it should. Sorry if I wasn't clear before.
刚才我可能提问的时候没有讲得特别清楚。其实我是说最近刘鹤副总理他表示说去年对互联网行业的有些监管的动作使得这个投资人可能感到失望。是不是政府有点过头？那么刘鹤是不是表示应该要结束这种规管，然后呢允许这个互联网经济得到它应有的一个自由的发展空间？
Well, I think we all know that recently Chinese government and Chinese leaders they shared a very clear message to the market that they want the platform economy play an important role in economic development and encourage the healthy development of platform economy. And I think this is the message is clear, and as part of this platform economy in China, Alibaba is committed to do to fulfill our responsibilities in terms of helping the development achieve a better life for the consumers, to help the merchants as well, especially in the technology innovation. I think in the core areas. So I think this is what we committed, and we will work hard to make substantial progress in all these aspects. But at the same time, we are closely watching the policy development and to make sure we are fully compliant with all the regulatory requirements. Thank you.
Thank you.
好，我们知道，中国的这些领导人是发出了非常明确的这个信号，就是说这个平台经济在推动国家的经济发展方面发挥着重要的作用，也希望能够发挥重要的健康的这个作用。他们也是鼓励平台经济得到健康规范的发展。那么作为一个平台经济，那么阿里的话呢，也是致力于履行我们的这样的一些责任，尤其在核心领域，就是让消费者过上更好的生活，那么帮助商家推动技术创新等，那么这些都是我们的承诺，我们也会继续这个不遗余力的努力的来推动这些方面的这个进展。那么与此同时呢，阿里巴巴是一直密切关注政策的这个最新发展，保证呢公司一定是合规的去遵守所有的这些规则规范。
Let's invite the last question.
And our next question comes from the line of Alicia Yap with Citigroup.
Hello, thank you. 管理层晚上好，谢谢接受我的提问。我的问题是跟就是阿里云整个行业短期跟一个长期的前景有关。就是短期来说，除了这个一些疫情风控和这个互联网行业增长放缓之外呢，还有什么其他原因会影响我们这个云业务的增长？然后从一个比较长远来看，就是说，当我们把疫情过去之后，然后整个中国的经济恢复比较正常的时候，我们如何看待中国整个云产业的一个增长？然后对于阿里巴巴云这边我们的一个增长会有什么看法？然后最近就是也听说云业务这边有一些重组。跟一些人员的变动，不知道这个会对我们短期跟长期有什么的一个影响吗？谢谢。
Thank you, management. My question has to do with the cloud segment and the short-term and long-term prospects for the cloud business. Starting with the short term, I'd like to know, apart from the recent impact of the pandemic, and the slowdown of the internet sector as a whole, what other factors are there that may be impacting the cloud business? And then in the longer term, when the Chinese economy has returned to normalcy, what's your view about how the cloud business will develop? What kind of growth do you expect Alibaba Cloud to achieve? And then finally, recently we've heard some news about some restructuring and some personnel changes in the cloud space. Could you tell us, please, about the impacts that those are likely to have in the short and longer term? Thank you.
好的，我来回答一下这个。对这个云业务来讲，确实近期的挑战，包括这个季度的这个收入增长的这个速度的放缓这个原因刚才都解释了，我不重复了。那我想这里边，我认为从未来这个经济发展当中这个云计算扮演的作用来讲，我想它还是每个行业各行各业走向数字化经营变成一个这个数字驱动的这样的一个大数据公司的一个非常重要的一个基础设施所以从这个角度来讲，其实存在着每个行业都存在着这个云成为它的一个 去服务的对象的这么一个机会啊，所以这是这个第一点。所以从行业的前景来讲，我们认为是一个非常广阔的前景啊。刚才这个我的 script 里边也讲到了，就是2025年啊，其实市场已经估计了中国的云计算啊规模会到达1万亿人民币。那这个去年应该这个意味着我们在未来的几年啊有这个2倍以上的啊这个一共 multiple 3啊乘3倍以上的这个3倍的这样的一个增速的这么一个可能性。所以我想这是一个巨大的一个产业机会啊，一个巨大的一个普适性的机会，这第一点。
Thank you. Well, talking about the performance of the cloud business in the short term, I've already spoken about the factors that led to the slowdown in revenue growth in Alibaba Cloud recently, so I won't repeat here what I already said earlier. But I think when it comes to economic development and the important role that the cloud can play there, the key thing is that all industries are digitalizing and need to digitalize. Cloud and big data are an important kind of infrastructure driving that upgrading of industry, and therefore all industries present important opportunities for us at Alibaba to serve, and that really represents a huge market opportunity. In fact, as I mentioned in my script earlier, the forecast is for the cloud market in China to reach 1 trillion RMB by 2025. So that potentially means that over the next few years we have the potential to grow at 2 times or 3 times kind of multiple. So it's going to be a very big and exciting opportunity.
那第二点，从要抓住这样的机会啊，这个实现这样的增长，非常关键的一点就是如何跟这个产业去结合啊。其实这个今天这个当我们谈 cloud， 其实每个人说的这个定义并不完全相同啊，但可能最相同的一点就是这个作为 us， 作为这个云 IT， 这个要成为这个服务代替原来的这个代替传统的 IT， 成为这个服务的基础设施。但是我想这个只是一个起点啊，最重要的还是能够把云计算、大数据的平台和 AI 啊，这个包括整个企业全方位的数字化经营都能够基于这个云来进行实现啊。我想这个需要跟每个行业啊，特别是主要的行业的深入的这样的一个形成这个解决方案啊，形成行业需要的产品啊，我觉得这个上面对这个云的业务的发展非常重要啊。从这个意义来说，这个阿里必须在这个方面跟所有的产业的这个 SaaS 的服务商和生态的伙伴一起来共同合作，来共同来这个探索这样的一个行业机会。只有形成这个行业基于行业的云的这个产品和解决方案的突破啊，我想这个才能够能够来实现这个抓住每个行业走向数字化的这样的一个历史机会。
Secondly, in order to be able to fully capitalize on that opportunity, you need to take an industry-specific approach because when we talk about cloud, there are many different definitions out there. The only part of that definition that everybody will agree on is the IaaS layer, which seeks to replace traditional IT infrastructure. But to me, the more important opportunity is beyond that. It's when you start bringing in the big data, AI, as well as the ability to digitalize the overall operations of different enterprises and enable all of that through the cloud. And to do that, this requires an industry or vertical specific approach with products that are custom tailored for different applications in different vertical segments. And I think this is very important for the cloud business. And it's imperative that Alibaba be working with these different industries, different verticals, especially the major ones, in depth with SaaS and with our ecosystem partners in order to be able to deliver that value and capitalize on all of those opportunities going forward.
第三点呢，我想除了这个垂直行业的机会以外，非常重要的还是说利用我们今天在现在市场的领先地位啊，在整个的 AaaS 层啊，包括我们的核心 PaaS 产品上，能够继续通过技术的创新、技术的突破，能够 这个带来这个更好的一个技术价值的实现，技术红利使得我们获得更好的规模经济因为大家都知道在20层，其实这个云计算本身是一个规模经济的一个事业所以如何在规模下扩大规模下，通过技术的这个升级降低成本这个我想这个是这个非常重要，作为市场领先者来扩大领先这个巩固领先这个地位扩大领先份额的非常重要的一个手段。
Thirdly, apart from that vertical-oriented approach, it's also incumbent upon us, given our market leadership position, to continue to innovate also in the IaaS layer and also the core PaaS layer, so that we can continue to reap the dividends of technological innovation through economies of scale. In particular, the IaaS layer is all about economies of scale. So if we can continue to improve the technology and lower the costs, there's a huge advantage that can be reaped there.
最后我也说一下最近这个您刚才问的这个Alicia问的这个团队的我们的一个升级这个我们也是加强了我们的云计算的这个我们的领导团队在这个领导这个团队的这样的一个升级的背后，我们思考是今天这个云这个去年这个财年大家已经看到了，已经是这个算上阿里内部的服务对阿里内部的服务已经是过1000亿的这么一个业务了。在这样的一个规模化业务本身也是一个复杂的系统是一个复杂的工作系统同时如何在这个基础上提升这个云的这个工作效率提升我们的这个经营效率，包括这个实现刚才 Toby 说的我们的更好的在这样的一个不仅是对这个初期业务的这个降本增效，也包括我们增长性业务的降本增效上能够取得更好的进展达到更好的效率，这个并且形成这个新一代的对企业级服务的这个 enterprise service 这样的一种这个工作方式我觉得这个是我们从这个要云从这个今天的这个1000亿走向未来的3000亿、5000亿，我想我们必须要打好这个基础。
And then finally, to address your question about the team upgrade that has been implemented, as you saw last year in the previous fiscal year, the revenues of Alibaba Cloud, if you include services provided within the group to Alibaba, has already exceeded 100 billion. So it's a very complex system. So looking for ways to make the operations of the cloud business more efficient and very much in line with what Toby was describing earlier, looking for ways to drive more cost efficiency and achieve more cost optimization, as well as to position ourselves to better provide the next generation of enterprise services to get us from the scale we're at today of 100 billion to a future of 300 billion or even 500 billion. That was the thinking underlying the way we've gone about reorganizing the team.
Okay, thank you everyone for participating today. If you have any questions, please reach out to the IR team and myself. And thank you, and we'll see you next quarter. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's conference call. Thank you for participating, and you may now disconnect.